everyone. Welcome back to Adobe Live. Thank you all so much for joining us on Draw This in Your Style. And today we are joined once again by the wonderful Kyle Webster. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm fine, Cody, and thank you for having me again. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, of course. Well, it is so good to see you all in chat for day two. I saw that Rob earlier, I think it was, Rob said, I'm excited to see how these porcine patissiers come along, and I love that so much. So if you guys missed, yes, of course. So if you guys missed yesterday's Draw This in Your Style Part 1, feel free to check out that link. You can find it down below under the stream. We are going to be working on our pig bakers a little bit more today. But before we get into that, if you guys don't know what Draw This in Your Style is, basically it is when an illustrator will create an illustration specifically for this. They will upload it online and invite everyone and anyone to recreate it in their own personal artistic style. And we do that on this show, but with a twist. So me and Kyle picked a theme, which was pig baker before the stream, and we each created an illustration and then we swapped it on stream. And now we're recreating each other's in our own style. And before we get into drawing, today we're going to be working on the coloring mostly, I think. I am going to hand it over to Kyle so he can give a little bit of an intro to who he is and the type of work that he does.
Thank you. Yes, so I covered some of this yesterday. I'm currently working for Adobe making brushes. I made all of the brushes that you find in Adobe Fresco, but prior to that, I made a whole bunch of brushes for Photoshop, and I had this business called Kyle Brush for about 5 years. And those brushes are now part of the Adobe Creative Cloud brush library. So you all have access to them whenever you need them. There are over 1,900 brushes now because I've been adding to them over the last 4 years since I started working at Adobe. Every quarter, we got a nice new set of brushes for you all to play with. So I'm excited about that because I love to see what people make with them. It's always something maybe that somebody will find a way to use a brush that I would not have expected, which is cool because then I can copy that. And yes, I was an illustrator and I still do some illustration, though clearly not as much as before when I had an illustration business for a while. And yeah, I just studied regular fine art classes at a 4-year liberal arts school, and I just loved drawing. So I had to figure out a way to make it part of my life. And I'm sure like many of you out there, that's a priority for you. You want to say, how can I draw for a living? And it took me a long time to get to where I was finally doing that. I know I had a circuitous route that I followed, but I did get there, and I'm glad to say that you too can do it. You just have to find that avenue. And there are more now than ever, right, Cody? I think now is a great time to be an illustrator.
Absolutely. I actually personally didn't go to college for artwork. I didn't go to college at all. I call myself self-taught and internet taught. So lots of free resources out there on YouTube. It's a great time to be an illustrator, especially digital illustrator. Lots of tools.
Yeah, and the online options now are just incredible. I mean, there's so many that I've seen and subscribed to myself for all kinds of very specific courses. I don't know if you all know Schoolism, for example, but I did Schoolism for 4 years where I was just, choosing these very specific courses and anything that Stan Prokopenko does, Proko, and just there's so much good stuff out there. There's lots of bad stuff too. So you got to kind of find some good mentors out there, but it's really amazing what you can get. And I kind of wish all that stuff had been around when I was in school. I didn't have a lot of access. Anyway, yeah, so lots to talk about there. But anyway, good luck to everybody if you're trying to get there. Good luck if you've already made it. It's hard to stay in this business sometimes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that wonderful sentiment, Kyle. And with that, we are going to hop on over to Photoshop and Fresco. I am going to be working in Photoshop and Kyle is working in Fresco. And if you guys would like to recreate either mine or Kyle's illustration, feel free to do so. You can upload it onto Instagram with the hashtag Adobe Live DTIYS, or you can post it on the Photoshop Discord under the Draw This in Your Style channel. And we will be going over a couple more entries towards the end of the stream as well. So here is Kyle's illustration that I am going to be recreating. And here is my illustration that Kyle is recreating.
Yep, I've got it tucked up here in the corner for reference. We used it yesterday for the sketches, and now we're ready to do, hopefully we'll make it to the finish line. What do you think, Cody?
I don't know. You work faster than I do, Kyle.
All right.
Well,
let's just see what happens.
And I want to take some time to say hello to everyone in chat. Hey, Sam, Kevin, Vanessa, Umacorn, Steve, welcome everyone. Laura, thank you all so much for joining us today. Cute piggies, yes, of course. It always makes for a good stream when you got some cute piggies on stream. Yep. Oink oink, indeed, everyone. Thank you so much.
This is the first time I've drawn a pig on a live stream.
I think it is for me too, honestly. I don't remember another time. I don't really draw pig characters very often, so this is almost a kind of a first for me in a way.
That's nice.
Yeah.
We're challenging ourselves.
Yes.
Stepping outside of our comfort zones, maybe.
Always a good thing.
Yes. By the way, I want to mention that this brush I'm using for inking, if I might, this is a free brush you can grab any old time from my draw along show that I used to have. If anyone used to watch that, it's called the Doozy Inker, Doozy, and it's on my Gumroad page. So if anybody's interested in just grabbing this, you may, because I do get some nice comments about the quality of this brush, and then I think people think they can't get it.
Oh yeah, it looks like it has some nice nice line weights to it. It
does, and it has some built-in sort of a paper texture. It's really subtle, but just enough to make it so it doesn't feel like too clean, too perfect. Mm-hmm. Which is usually something I'm kind of going for.
So what kind of, do you change up your textures a lot when you work, or do you kind of like stick to similar brushes that are kind of your comfort zone, or what's your process here? Do you always start with inking?
Well, in a drawing like this, this is like kind of the most commonly used approach that I have, and it comes from, I spent so many years doing editorial illustration for magazines, where the important thing was for me I did a lot of character-based stuff. So I would have to draw someone that was clear and easy to read and could be printed in newspaper oftentimes, with just plain flat color behind it. Oh. So I got used to doing a sketch, having the sketch approved, and then going straight to inking over that sketch. And in a lot of those drawings, I wouldn't even use a brush that had much texture to it for the inking, because I didn't want some of that noise to sort of be problematic with the newsprint already having some noise when you print.
Right.
But if I was doing it for a magazine where they have a glossier finish and a nicer quality paper, then I often would use a brush like this and just try and make it, really my goal was to make it so that the line art didn't feel like it was created digitally. I wanted it to feel like somebody had sat down with a pen or a brush and done the line art that way.
Absolutely. You wanted to have a bit more of a traditional quality to it.
Yeah, and that comes from me really loving the drawings of people like Uderzo, who did the art for Asterix, mm-hmm. and Franquin. These are, Belgian and French artists who I just love the way they draw, and they do work pretty clean. But you can tell when you look at their drawings how they're definitely using natural materials, natural tools. That looks weird. I'm trying to fix these nostrils.
That's an interesting sentence.
Yeah, don't say that every day. There we go.
Rob says, hey, a guy who knows newsprint and its limits. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm old.
Showing your age, Kyle.
I know. Yeah, it was definitely an interesting thing to do a lot of work for for newspapers, and always be thinking in the back of my mind about not adding too much detail, for example, not or lines that didn't have enough weight and things, because it wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
You try and print it, and you'd wind up with mud.
Right. CJ in chat just said, red alert, Cody's not using Conte Crayon. Are you okay? Yeah, so anyone that's familiar with my work, I use a brush called, one of Kyle's brushes called Conte Crayon. I can grab it for you guys right here. So if you see most of my work, it has this kind of like chalky crayon texture to it. But for my pig illustration, I actually brought out the gouache brushes for the first time in quite a while. I've tried, attempted multiple times to try to make the digital gouache brushes work for me in the past, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. But for this illustration, I was able to get it to work. So I'm going to keep working at it and continue doing some work with the gouache brushes. So I'm going to be doing this pig illustration with the gouache brushes as well.
I just did a demo with some of those last week, or no, the week before that, on my illustration masterclass show on Adobe Live, where I was doing a winter monster character, and I had not used the gouache brushes in ages. And like, it was a 3-part stream, and it took me, I guess, the whole first stream to kind of get used to, again, knowing how to paint with those.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the thing was that I was doing something that had different transitions, from like with hard edge and also soft edge transitions, like more painterly kind of stuff with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had forgotten kind of how to do that. And I don't know if anyone noticed in the stream or not, but I was
probably not.
I don't know.
But that's kind of how I felt. Like I was struggling to figure out how to get it to look as traditional as possible, and kind of give it that painterly look and not look too digital, especially because I'm kind of used to not adding any kind of dimension or shading to my work. Since I started using Conte Crayon, I just keep all my colors pretty much flat.
Yeah.
So it took me a lot longer to work on my pig baker, but I really enjoyed the process because I felt like I was accomplishing something, getting out of my comfort zone with the new brushes.
Yeah, and I've seen some artists do things with them where I'm like, how do they do that? Paulo Rivera is this guy who does a lot of cool comic stuff. A lot of it for Marvel. He's done some neat. One thing he did that I thought was really neat was for Winter Soldier, the second Captain America movie from Marvel. The cast received a poster, like cast and crew. So it wasn't something that was made available to everybody. So they did a limited run. And so instead of breaking out his paint for that, he just did it in Photoshop using those gouache brushes. And when I saw what he had done, I just couldn't figure out how, because I'm like, I know how these brushes work. I made these things, but I couldn't figure out how he was using them. And I wish that he would have, or would in the future maybe do like a demo or something. I would love it if he did something like that, where he would film his process and just show, because I just want to know how he's doing what he does with this, because I know these tools and I'm like, I'm not getting anything close to it. Almost like there's something about it, and I wonder, maybe it's possible he edits the brushes himself, because I know a lot of people, they'll tweak them to do different things that they want.
Right.
Sometimes I wonder if maybe he did that.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't know if maybe anyone in chat can relate to this. I kind of forget that you can edit brushes sometimes. So I just take it at face value, and then I forget that there's all these different kinds of settings. And then I watch your stream, Kyle, like Brush Hour, for instance, and you go through all of the different settings. I'm like, oh yeah, all of those settings exist, and I completely forget about it when I go to do artwork.
Yeah, it's easy to forget, and I do want folks to just be reminded of that sometimes. That it's great that you have that flexibility. So even something really small like the flow of a brush could be enough to make it work for you and make you happy. And everyone has a different hand when they draw. Some people have a heavier touch than others, right? And so I think if you were to reduce the flow, if you have a heavier hand and the ink or the paint or whatever it is that's, coming out of the brush slows down a bit, then that'll help you to work around that heavier touch that you have. And you could fall in love with a brush that you previously just weren't a fan of. So little things like that. A lot of stuff you can adjust.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because that is actually how I got the gouache brushes to work for me. Is I started editing the flow, and I was able to start blending the colors better, having just turned down the flow a little bit.
Yes, that makes a huge difference. Yeah, because otherwise they're too opaque right out of the gate. Yeah, great. I mean, that's it right there. Exactly what we're talking about.
Bliss says, I edit the brushes frequently in some way or another. I feel so hip doing so. Good job, Bliss. Mercutio says, Brush Hour is now the show I most look forward to. Used to be Draw Along. Got some Brush Hour fans in the chat. Awesome, thank you.
Try and make that show good. What I miss from Draw Along was I used to like tell jokes, and I had some kids who would watch it, young kids, and I wanted to keep them engaged and have them enjoy it, and so I did some cheesy, corny, like dad humor.
We love your dad jokes.
Yeah, maybe I'll just thanks. Maybe I'll bring those back to Brush Hour or something.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be a bad idea. Alrighty, so moving along, I'm gonna put the.
Oh, I love the little pig face you put on his apron. That's
Thanks. Cute. Had to do something with that space. I'm gonna put the stove and stuff on a separate layer, just because, in case I need to move stuff around.
Do you tend to work with a lot of layers or no?
Well, so much of my work is so simple. It's like usually kind of, here's some lines, here's some color behind it, kind of done. I guess I used to work with a lot more layers when I was doing work for clients, because they would always have changes. So I'd try and put things on different layers so that I would never get stuck trying to mess with something that I couldn't mess with. But nowadays, so much of the work I do is for Adobe, just for the purposes of promoting Fresco or for educational purposes and things like that. I don't have people telling me, make sure you change this, make sure you change that. So I think I just kind of got comfortable working on a lot fewer layers. Recently, I did a beverage label. And so in that case, I used like 50 or 60 layers, because I knew the client would be like, can we move this? Can we change that color? Can we, so that's a different kind of situation.
Right. You wanted to keep all the elements separate in case you had to go back and change something. So it's easier on you to keep it separate from everything.
Yeah, we all know. I mean, there's nothing worse than a change coming through on some part of the drawing that's not on a separate layer, and then you're like trying to go in there and erase, and especially
yes.
Yeah. So try to avoid that at all costs. That's what I'm always trying to do.
It's a disaster.
I'm going to leave Piggy alone for now, I think. And I'm going to go ahead and work on this stove. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the perspective tool in Fresco, this lovely perspective tool that we have now. And actually, I'm looking at this and it's helping me see. I think my sketch is a little off there. This needs to be a little smaller. There we go. Speaking of perspective.
Steve says, Kyle could do a show where he runs around a beach painting on rocks and I'd watch.
Are you sure?
Plein air painting.
Don't tempt me. That's very nice. I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you. All right. I guess we don't need our little piggy for reference anymore. I'll hide that. And now I'm going to make another layer. I'm going to come to our perspective. You can see the perspective guides are there. I'll make them darker. You can see them really clearly there. And what I'm going to do is turn on snap to grid axis for drawing right here. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
And now, when I draw on this layer back here, everything is going to snap to that grid. That's just going to make my life so easy. It really speeds things up so much.
Yeah, that perspective tool is amazing.
Yeah, it's really it's very much and I said this last time, it's a little bit like cheating, but you know, then again, you still have to know what you're doing. It's
yeah.
You know that's how it is with art, right?
Not cheating, just a very helpful tool.
Yeah. It's like David Hockney made a documentary about Vermeer, who used a camera obscura to do a lot of his painting. And some people were like, oh, so he cheated. It's like he's tracing. Like, no, because it was his idea to have whatever that original composition was, and then to figure out all the color relationships and I mean all the subtleties in that work.
Kevin in chat is asking, I'm curious if Kyle prefers Photoshop or Fresco and why.
Well, it depends on what I'm doing. So yeah, it very much depends on what I'm doing. If I wanted to do watercolory stuff, I would use Fresco. If I wanted to do like live oils and stuff, yeah, Fresco for those live brushes, you know, is great. Of course, I also would use Fresco for vector drawing. I know my way around Photoshop that, you know, for certain projects, I just want to work on my Cintiq. I want to work on a big screen. And I use the keyboard keys so well. I've been using them for 20 years. So I could really work fast in Photoshop and just make my way through an illustration pretty fast. And there are times when it just feels like I want to do it in Photoshop. And I can't explain maybe the reasons for that, but there are just times when I want to draw big and I want to use my arm and I want to use that Cintiq and I want to just slam on the key commands and bounce around. I guess for something like this, I could go either way. I could work here in Fresco. I mean, one of the things I'm going to do though that I can't do in Photoshop with Fresco is when I get to coloring, I'm going to use reference layers to color the pig and probably also the stove. And reference layers are so fast. They allow me to throw color on something without having to like actually aim.
What are reference layers? I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
So like, for example, here, if I make a layer, I'm going to make a layer above this layer where I'm drawing the stove. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be my color for the pig. So then for the pig, I just tap on the pig, and 1, 2, 3, 4 options from the bottom, it says set as reference. And I'm going to tap on that. So now it says reference layer set. Now the pig is my reference layer. So if I come to this layer beneath it and I go ahead and I select a color for my pig, okay. So I'm going to use like something like this or whatever. I grab my paint bucket tool and I just tap, whoops, hang on. Let me turn off my, all right. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay, up here, there's a little spot that I didn't fill in. There we go. So yeah, you want to make sure your line art is pretty well completed. No big open areas, you know? Mm-hmm. All right, so then coming back here, I grab my paint bucket tool and grab that pink, and then I just tap like this. And then what I do is I adjust the color margin here. So if you see, what it's doing is it's trapping that color behind the line art on a separate layer.
Oh,
and then
interesting.
It's so fast. So I just tap, 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 fill, fill, fill. And then if I turn off my line art, you'll see the color is on its own layer. I'll turn off the sketch too for a moment. And it's trapped behind the lines. So you have no issues with there being like a border between the line and the color. And then I can just so fast just come in here and do this, just fill. If there's an area like that that gets messed up, I can fix that later. It's because there's a little gap there between the hoof and the sleeve. Mm-hmm. No worries. And then just come here, do this, 1, 2. If there's a gap here that I don't see, I'll just take this color margin and pull it down until I get all the stuff filled, but not so far that it fills outside. So it's dynamic. So I'm going to keep adjusting it until it just looks good. And then I can grab another color and continue to do the coloring this way. It's just so fast.
That's wow. That takes out so much time of having to fill in your line work.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Major time saver. So this is one of the things that I would prefer to do in Fresco. There is a cool plugin that exists for Photoshop that does something similar, but it still doesn't quite work the same way. Whoops. But it's close. Like, oh, I shouldn't be using that color anyway. It's close. Anyway. Yeah, this is just a really great time saver. Love it.
Do you pick your colors from a previous color palette, or do you kind of just go with your gut and just pick colors as you work?
Well, I'm using so few colors today that for me, this is just going to be me like trying to pick colors that feel pretty good and that are analogous. Mm-hmm. So I'm not traveling too far on the color wheel left or right from like for the pig's skin and then for the shirt, I just kind of stayed in that same vicinity. Normally though, what I like to do if I really have to do some color work that's going to be, intense, or if I'm doing a more painterly kind of thing, I did the last masterclass I did on Friday last week. I demonstrated this technique that I use for mixing color that's always harmonious because I'm not good with color, never have been. It's always been a problem for me. And in that class, what I showed was how to mix color on the canvas using a traditional approach of like primaries and then building secondaries and tertiary color and going on and on and on and building all these neutrals, and all of it just always works. It's always nice and harmonious. Those are the kinds of tricks I need to rely on to pick good color.
Mm.
For something like this, being as simple as it is, I'm only going to use like, maybe 6 or 7 colors max, and all of them are probably going to be derived from the same sort of tannish color and the pinkish reddish colors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be pretty easy for me to stay in a safe situation with that. Yeah. So, but that trick of mixing colors, using a brush that is going to be sensitive to pen pressure, and it's going to respond, to what you do with the pressure of the pen, by changing the opacity of the brush, makes it really easy for me to adjust color. The way I did that in that show was like this. I would take a brush like, what's it called? Chunky. Chunky's the closest thing I have to it in Fresco. And I'd have some color, and then like my yellow could be anything, doesn't matter. It could be green, could be yellow, could be, doesn't matter. But I would have like 3 primaries.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would tap on one, and then let you use light pressure here, and then just tap on the new color it made and mix that green, tap on that yellow, mix that, and mix that orangey kind of color. And I would just continue to do that. Mix these with each other, make some cool like colors from that. And the other thing I would do then would be to pick whatever usually I use the blue to do this. So like if this is my blue, then I keep it really saturated and I just pull it way down, and that becomes my black kind of. And then I use that to mix with everything else, and that like makes those darker colors,
Kind of like a chromatic black almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a tendency to keep away from pure blacks in my work.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it's really just my black is whatever is the darkest color that's in the image kind of turns into my black, which is usually just like a dark brown or maybe like a navy color or something.
That's a good way to do it. So anyway, yeah, that's the whole technique. And then for white, I use usually whatever the yellow is. I just grab it and I go like a lot lighter, and I don't use pure white. I just grab that and I'll mix it and stuff. And what I do after I've mixed all these colors is I'll select a handful of them and mix them together, and then I'll ultimately wind up with a palette of like 8 or 10 colors, just to do everything with, and then start painting with those. And they always look good together. That's the cool thing. And then you can do stuff like this. You can add a hue saturation adjustment layer, and then I can do stuff like mess with that same palette I just made and make it a completely different palette, So I could pull them all really cool like this and say, cool, okay. And then I could take that layer and just reduce its opacity a little bit. Whoops, wrong one. Hold on. What did I do? Hold on. You there. Gotta clip you. There, now it's clipped. That's what I want. Okay. And then zoop. Why is it doing that? Oh, I know why. Come here, you. Change it to a different mode. Maybe like overlay, color dodge. That's no good. Screen, yeah. Mess with like, oh, there we go. Darker color. That's nice. Now I have a whole different bunch of colors there to play with. So I make like various palettes using, here's the original one. There's that one now. Just make a whole bunch of palettes like that and then play with what works. And then,
wow, that's really cool. So now you have, you made one palette, but then with an adjustment layer, you can make a ton of different palettes just from that one.
Exactly.
Huge time saver.
Yeah. And 99% of the time, those colors will just look totally great together. You don't have to worry about it. It's really nice. So that's that. All right, I'm gonna keep plowing away on this this stove back here.
Bliss says Cody is looking like, what sorcery is this man doing? Very true. Very true. Kyle is always creating some kind of magic on stream.
Trying. I love though that people watching this are appreciating it. I showed this trick to my digital art students at the university well, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago. And it was just crickets.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, do you guys realize like how useful this is? And I think it's because none of them have ever done digital art before.
Oh.
That to them it's just like, oh, okay, cool. You can do that.
Right.
You know? It's like if you don't know, then what's the big deal?
Right. That's funny.
Yeah. So I was just like, guys, seriously, I have no idea. Alrighty. So
CJ said Kyle T. Webster, more like Kyle T. Wizard.
aw, that's nice.
And I just wanted to throw out a reminder for you guys, if you would like to recreate either mine or Kyle's illustrations, here is Kyle's. Here is mine. You can do so and upload your artwork on Instagram with hashtag @WLiveDTIYS, or you can post it on the Photoshop Discord under the Draw This in Your Style channel. And we will be looking at a couple more of your guys' entries that got posted yesterday towards the end of the stream.
Yeah, it's so fun to see everybody do their own take.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always fun. Not only, I really love prompts that way too, like drawing prompts. It gives everyone the same common goal, but then you get to see everyone's interpretation. And that's kind of what this is too, but a more specific prompt.
Yeah.
But they always end up coming out very differently. And you can see the characteristics of the artist come out through their artwork too, which is always really fun.
Yeah, there was one you shared yesterday that I saw. I think somebody had didn't they write something like a recipe kind of thing on there or something?
Yeah, that's actually one of the ones we're going to be showing today on the stream. They actually put a real recipe for pancakes, which I found out, I think it's today that's also National Pancake Day on top of National Pig Day.
No way.
So yeah, so they did a pancake recipe on the illustration, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, and so it's just like to show how they think so differently.
Yeah,
I love that. I just never would have even thought, oh, that's what I'll do. I almost never think about lettering, and I should think about it more.
I'm trying to incorporate more lettering into my work. I handwrite everything. I used to try really hard to be able to find fonts that go with my artwork, but I eventually heard an artist, Ragonia on Instagram, her name is Reagan. She suggested that if you can't find a font that fits your artwork, you should handwrite everything, because then it also it makes it unique, but also makes it really unique to you, and it makes your artwork stand out even more against the crowd.
That makes sense.
No one can really copy your handwriting. So ever since then, I've been handwriting all of my text on my work. I handwrote all of the draw this in your style text and stuff. So yeah.
Good advice.
In the Conte Crayon brush.
Oh. I did an updated Conte Crayon back in 2019. I don't know if you saw that one.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm maybe using that one, or I'm using whatever one is in, or that I saw in the mega pack. I think it's just called, let's see. It's just Kyle's Drawing Box Conte Crayon.
Yeah, so so there's one that's newer than that. It's in one of the updates for the seasonal updates, you know.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't know if it would appeal to you. It has a different quality to it. But I mean, just to try it, I like drawing with it.
Right. I'll have to try it out.
I had made it. Do you know John Hendricks? He's a nice guy.
No, I don't think so.
Worth looking him up for just because his illustrations are so neat. And you probably, when you see him, you're like, oh, I think I've seen those. But I was hanging out with him one time, and he's like, I wish you had a updated version of your content creation. I was like, okay. I love it when people suggest something, because then I know they actually want it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, half the time I'm just guessing, like, I wonder if people are going to want this.
Right, exactly.
I'll just make it anyway, see what happens.
You heard it here, folks. If you have any brush suggestions, throw them in chat.
Oh yeah, I'm always looking for suggestions, of course. I mean, after like 1,900 brushes, I'm kind of running out of ideas sometimes.
Right,
honestly.
Of course.
It's kind of... Not that I want to say that, for sure. I mean, otherwise, what does Adobe need me for? But I'm actually about halfway through the update for spring 2022 right now. So if you do have some good ideas, I might wind up putting them into the brush set.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. In the middle of finishing those up.
Rob says, Codi's textures always remind me of suede. Oh, interesting. Are you referring to my Conte crayon textures or these gouache textures? Because the gouache textures are actually new for me. We were just talking about that earlier. But I could see how these gouache textures kind of have a very soft suede quality to it.
Yeah, I see that too.
Oh, I like the little heart plaque that you put on the back of the stove. That's a really nice detail.
Trying to, because you had put so many nifty things in that original one with the photos on the wall, and yeah, just trying to add some touches that make it interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think those little touches also just make it really unique to you and your style too. Yeah. That's what we're all about here.
I sometimes struggle to come up with that kind of stuff. Like I'm all about usually the main sort of like, oh, am I getting that gesture right? Or, does that pose feel good? Then you get down to like the stuff that gives it charm and personality. And by then I'm just kind of like,
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, it's just trying to get the drawing to look okay, and now I'm just tired.
That's funny because I'm kind of the opposite. I focus on the details rather than the gesture. So I actually really enjoy putting all of those little details. Like I'll go down to the details of like putting lots of like seams on the clothes and stuff like that. But also at the same time, keeping it relatively simplistic for my style. But I like putting all those little accessory details in.
Yeah, well, you're very good at it. I think that's one of those things where if you practice doing that more often, like everything else, you get better at it. And so I just
very true.
Yeah. Here's a little tip for folks out there if you're like portfolio wise. And I learned this the hard way. We're talking about details. Anything you put in your portfolio, make sure that you like it. If you struggled to draw something or just didn't really enjoy it that much, I guarantee you that'll be the thing that an art director will call you and be like, can you do that again? I did a thing for a magazine where I had this, it was a 2-page spread with like 50 different people of really small sizes, all doing different activities at like a county fair kind of situation.
Oh,
It's just awful, horrible experience to try. I really did not enjoy it. Sure enough, they like asked me for 2 more. And then I got this assignment from Bicycling Magazine. Like, we liked that thing. And they see the thing, then they think that's what you do.
right.
And they're like, well, I want money. So you do it, but you're not enjoying it. Just keep that in mind. You know, I wish I had known. And I, for years, like, you know, at least 3 or 4 years, I was doing those kinds of illustrations because they did pay pretty well, but I did not enjoy them at all. So yeah, make sure, like, if there's a certain kind of work you really want to do, make sure that's in your portfolio. If there's something you don't enjoy, take it out. The other example was I put one time an illustration of a car. This is when I was starting out, and I was just like, I'm going to put everything in my portfolio, but I hate drawing cars or vehicles of any kind. And sure enough, like, I had like a 2-year running gig with Car and Driver magazine.
Oh, wow.
And every month when the guy would write me the email, I'd just be like, no, oh God, here it comes. And it would be a very specific kind of car, of course, every time. Here, draw this BMW, blah, blah, blah. You know, and then you'd have to look up all the reference. And the worst part would be sometimes you couldn't find reference at the right angle.
Oh, no.
And I can't, you know, my brain doesn't work. I can't be spinning a car around and trying to, just stuff like that. And yeah, so just watch out for that. If you're building a portfolio, put in what you love.
Cars are so meticulous too. Oh man.
Oh my gosh. And they cannot be faked.
Right.
Like, you got to get every angle right. And holy cow. That was some rough stuff. So take my word for it. You don't want to draw stuff you don't want to draw. But if it's there, they'll see it and they'll say, ooh, I bet they love drawing that.
Yeah, there used to be some of my old artwork that had lots of characters and lots of detail. And once I discovered what you just said, I took it out of my portfolio because I just can't do it anymore. I don't have the patience to put tons of characters into one illustration. It's so difficult for me.
Yeah, because then it really does just feel like a slog to get through it. You're like, you know, sometimes like a sketch of something like that can be kind of fun, but then when you actually have to go and produce it, you're like, oh no, what have I done? Yeah. Or like everybody knows, one of the things we all dread is, not all of us, I know there are some folks who actually enjoy this, but is that dreaded call, and the art director's like, so there's a crowd and ... And you're like, no.
Too many crowds.
Crowd scenes are the worst. But I know people who do them well. What is that guy's name? He's an English illustrator, and he did the cover of the last 2 Guinness Book of World Records. Rod Hunt, I think is his name. You can look him up. You want to see someone who draws a lot of details and doesn't mind. Check out that lunatic. And I say that with affection. I like Rod a lot. Of course. But he is just a crazy person.
I don't know who the illustrator was. Maybe you do, Kyle, who that originally did the Where's Waldo illustrations. But
oh, yeah.
There's someone that likes detail.
Oh, what's his name? I mean, he's done probably, at least a dozen of those books, if not more. Yeah, he enjoys that. And he said as much. He really likes it. So he's crazy. Okay, so now let's just turn that perspective grid back on. And that'll help me to find. Okay, so I need to be a little higher. There we go. Okay, good. Okay.
Umacorn says, wow, 48 minutes already. Just noticed time flies. Yes, you are correct, Umacorn. It is just about time to look at community entries. And I can't believe how fast this stream went by. It's been a lot of fun so far. Thank you all so much for joining us. But we are going to hop on over to Instagram now so we can check out, I think we have a couple on Instagram, maybe 1 or 2 on Instagram, and then 1 or 2 on Discord.
Ah, great.
Yeah. So let's hop on over there. And so, oh yes, so here is the entry for the pancake one. Yes,
that's the one.
It's beautiful. It's vegan pancakes, and they created it. It looks like with beetroot. And I love how they, because of the beetroot is purple, they incorporated the purple throughout the rest of the illustration, which is really clever. And the flat colors and textures look really nice.
I like that purple and orange. You can't go wrong with 2 complementary colors.
Absolutely. So yeah, thank you so much, Illustrator Canard. Thank you so much for your entry. Really appreciate it. It's beautiful.
Canard means duck in French. I wonder if that's
something. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Then we saw Dorina's yesterday, and then we also have a new one from Julia. We saw one of Julia's entries yesterday, and we have a new one today. So cute, with the little pie menu in the background, and it looks like he's falling over with all of his pies. They're about to go crashing down.
A lot of action in that, and storytelling, which is always good.
Yeah, definitely. Great job, Julia. Lots of movement and interest. All of the pies are kind of flying to one side. Looks great. And a great expression too.
And still like keeping it simple though, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and the chef's hat is flying off his head. Very nice.
It'd be hard to do.
All right, excuse me. And we can hop on over to Discord as well. And let's go to draw this in your style. And then we have, let's see. Yeah, scrolling back up. And then we have this this funny little illustration. It's a pig, but he's also, he's a pig painter. He's changed professions from baker to painter.
Picasso.
Yes, Picasso. Perfect. Perfect. We have a name.
Sorry. I was just hanging out there in the air. I had to grab it.
I love it. Perfect. Dad jokes. Inserting dad jokes wherever you can. Thank you so much, Kyle. Love all of the little details. And it looks like he's actually painting a pig on a platter, which is kind of funny. So
yeah.
All right, you guys. Oh yeah, the chat loves Picasso. Very, very good.
Good. All right.
All right, you guys. Thank you all so much for watching. I know we're ending a few minutes early today, although I guess we could hop on over back to Photoshop just for a couple minutes, maybe. Just to paint for the last few minutes. We're ending a little bit early, so let's just continue, shall we?
Yeah.
I don't want to end too fast on you guys. This is the final draw this in your style after all, so I don't want to end it too early. And so yeah, let's just keep going for the next few minutes here. And also on that note, you guys, like I said, this is the final draw this in your style stream, but I will be starting I will be starting a new show on Monday, and it's going to be every Monday. So we won't be skipping weeks from now on, but we will be doing a show every Monday, and it is going to be a drawing prompt show, actually. And we will have a new prompt every Monday, and the theme, each month will have a theme. So March is going to be medieval March. So
ooh, fun.
Yeah, so look out for those prompts that are going to be coming up sometime on my Instagram, probably tomorrow at some point, hopefully. So yeah, looking forward to starting that new show for you guys.
Very nice. I just drew a knight in the forest.
Oh yes, on your Instagram. I really like that one. It's beautiful.
Thanks. This week I'm gonna show tomorrow on Brush Hour like how to do it, because I used Fresco to create brushes that give you the impression that it's like it really is natural media by using multicolor swatches to generate colors that are really close to one another, but they're in the same swatch. So when you paint with it, you get this nice subtle variation in every brush stroke. And that was done on a live stream for Adobe Live France last week at night, which if any of you speak French, you can watch that, or if you don't, you can still watch it. It's every other Wednesday, alternating with brush hour, same time. And my French is, bleh, but good enough to do the show. And it's always something on that show with a theme. So, like that was, what was it? Fantasy, but like more sort of King Arthur kind of stuff. I drew Merlin and.
Oh yeah, I love King Arthur as a topic. Yeah, really great.
So cool.
All right, you guys. So it is about that time. Thank you, Kyle, so much for joining us on this Draw This in Your Style. It was so much fun having you on.
Thank you very much. And I'm honored to be on the last one.
Yeah, of course. The season finale.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for watching us today. And I'm going to get cut off. So follow Kyle on Instagram, and I will see you guys next Monday for the new show. Bye.
Ciao for now.